Hello, I'm Mark from Trailblazing. Today we're starting a new bike build series from our kit frame. So I'd like to introduce Kendall Braidway here, my son.
Hi.
Kendall, say hi.
Hi.
So he's going to be working with me and we're going to do a father and son project where we're building this bike a la carte from everything we have on our website. So hopefully that'll inspire you to kind of get out in the garage and build your own stuff, either with your son or daughter too. So it's going to be up to Kendall here to pick all the parts and pieces. So he's kind of got like the dream scenario, right? Where, okay, you're not only are you kind of getting a new motorcycle, but you're also being able to pick and make it yourself. So me as a kid, I would just, so what are you thinking? You thinking it's going to be a good time?
I think it's going to be a great time. I think I'm able to have a lot of fun with mixing with parts and I'm going to have a good time.
Awesome, great. Well, we'll dig in. So the first we've got going on here is we've got our kit bike frame. And if you watch some of our other videos, we've gone over the differences of this frame versus what you would get if you were to start with a regular Trail 70 frame. So I can go over some of those highlights now as we get into it. So like Kendall, what we've got here is this frame is designed to hold significantly more fuel than the regular Trail 70. So this is for 5.5 liters versus I think it's 2.4 for the original bike. So we've got that. And Kendall here, this is the gas tank, the monster that fits in there. So some differences that you'll notice here is this bugger is super, super wide. And that's where they're hiding the difference of this frame. So this frame isn't exactly like a Trail 70, but it's super close from the side view. Where they make it different, so they make the thing like, quite a bit fatter. And you can really see that towards the back of the frame here as you look down to where the taillight mounts and how much wider this guy is. And it's significantly thicker gauge metal throughout, which is a pretty good build quality. The paint's decent, right? They come from China, so there's going to be some dings and some little small stuff, but we're planning on making a rider here, so we're going to go out and have some fun and really beat on it. And we'll do this one, and then hopefully we'll resurrect my old white one that I made. Same kit bike, same everything. I made that back in 09. That thing's been kicking around for a while. We use that one for testing, and it's very similar to some of the clone bikes that we've sold over the years. So I think what we're going to do first is we're going to kind of lay out and we're going to try to plan our build a little bit, so that way we know what to order or pull from our inventory. So that way we're not double doing anything or making more purchases than we normally would, but we'll go through that and we'll start that now. So now we're going to kind of go over and talk about what we want for our parts and pieces. So we got our frame. We've got a blue frame here. And I think, Kendall, you were talking about you wanted to try to do black parts and pieces, not chrome. Was that correct?
Yes.
I think that looks...
I would think a black aesthetic for replacing the chrome pieces would be better.
Okay.
And I would think that would make it more tasteful.
Cool. All right, so we're going to do black parts, so we won't have any chrome on this bike. The next part we got to talk about is our motor selection. So what do you think? What do you want to do with the bike? You want to kind of go off-road, on-road? Do you want to go off-road?
I'd like a kind of a good mix between the two.
Okay, so like a good...
Mainly on-road.
Okay, good dual sport.
Good dual sport.
That can go on the road.
Mm-hmm. I don't want a huge engine. Maybe like a smaller 140 compared to a really big 190.
Yeah. Perfect.
Clutch.
Okay.
And then electric start would be preferable.
Awesome.
I really don't want to kick it over all the time.
Well, the nice thing, they come with both, right? So if you get into a trail situation or your battery runs down, you can always kickstart the bike. So the 140 is like, that is the power curve that the thing has cut for the cam. It kind of feels similar to a, not as close, but like a two-stroke kind of the power that comes on hard and fast, and you can really have a good time with it. The 190s are, that's like if you want to go all out, I guess that's the motor to do, but they're just a little more finicky. I think, man, you're really getting to that limit of that horizontal motor of what it can do without really having a lot of... You're kind of like, if you do like a pinnacle graph to where you get to the tip of that pyramid and like, ooh, this is like super hard and you can't have much stuff go wrong. The 190s and 212s and all that are, if you want a bike that you want to monkey around with, you definitely get the 190. If you want a bike you just want to ride, I don't know that I'd go much more over 140, because even the 140, man, is that a handful on the trail and the road. But you know, I can see for guys that are really on the road, they're 100% street bike, and you like a motorcycle that you got to tinker with a little bit. Not that they're totally bad, but they're just, when you get to that higher threshold, there's less forgiveness in that scenario. So, all right, so we've got our engine figured out. I think for our front end, we were talking about not necessarily doing an inverted, but maybe doing our traditional forks, like the 30 millimeter front end assembly. All right. Yeah. And then there's different rear shocks that we have. So we can pick that out, knowing that we're probably going to want to go black. So maybe we even got to do a little painting for some of the aluminum parts and pieces that we have. So we've got our engine, we've got our front end, and then I guess tires, right? So you want it to be able to go off-road and on-road.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we've got a huge selection up front. So I guess what we'll do is we'll head up front and we'll kind of take a peek at what we have for tires. We know what we want for motor. We know what we want for a front end. We know we want to go black. Our the seats are probably pretty good for what we have. So I think the only thing really up in the air is we can pick out our tire pattern. So now we're to our section here. We're doing tires. So it's a real personal preference here. So a lot of it hangs on performance, but I think personally a lot of people fall towards aesthetics. I mean, other than a street tire versus an off-road. So what you were thinking, you wanted to try to do on-road, off-road, right? But you still wanted a good streetable tire, right? So what we have in front of us here is our kind of our offering here for tires. So we also have a 10-inch diameter rim, and we've got a 12-inch diameter rim. So did you want to try 12s?
Yeah, I want to try 12s.
Okay, so we'll start with some 12s. So those are our cast iron aluminum rims. They come in, stock bare aluminum. So if we're going to go with the black, we're going to probably have to have them powder coated, I think, probably, right? We want to stick with the black theme?
Yes.
All right. So now that truncates down our availability of what we have. So we've got Dunlops and we've got Kendas here that work with our 12-inch rim, or we've got our more off-road IRCs here that work with the 12 too. So is this just a little more off-road than you'd want to do?
A little bit too off-road.
Too knobby? Okay.
Too knobby.
So I guess that really leaves either our Dunlop, which has kind of a larger lug, or our Kendas here, which have a more of a tighter pack. So what are you thinking that you're gonna like?
The tighter pack Kendas.
You like the Kendas? All right. So we've got Kenda. We're gonna go for 12-inch Kenda tires. So to start our build, we're gonna start out here with our Trail Buddy bike building stand. And a fun note about this is if you've bought these in the last few years, Kendall has been the one that's been welding these up. So kind of a cool note, right? So we've got it set up at the shop. He also cuts out all these at my fabricating shop. So he does all the metal work. He cuts all the parts and pieces for it. And he's done the production welding to put these together. So it's kind of a fun, cool thing. So, all right, so we've got our motor. And the first thing we need to do, Kendall, is we've got to get this stand set and ready for the motor. So the operation that you want to do here, if you're starting with a Trail Buddy stand, is we want to unbolt our engine plate that we have. We're going to take it clean out, and we're going to put it on the motor. So that way, we're not necessarily wrestling with trying to get this motor on here. It seems to work a little bit better if we bolt this onto that motor. So we've already pulled our 140cc engine. So we've got to get it up out of the crate. And since we're going to go with black, we've got to talk about how we're going to attack this engine here and get that black coating on top of it. So we've got to loosen up our jam nut here because this is set up for working on a motor by itself. So we got to loosen this, and we're going to bolt this to the bottom of the motor. It's kind of nice. I don't have to do the work anymore. Yeah. There you go. Plenty loose. So we get that. And then what we can do, Kendall, is if you grab the motor, pull it up out of it, I'll grab some of the foam blocks and I'll get rid of the cardboard for you. All right, so be careful, it's heavy. Yep, so kind of grab it by the head and the back there, you got it. All right, so wait before you set it down. All right, so we're gonna set it down here, but we're gonna turn it upside down. There you go. Hopefully you don't lose much oil. And then here. So the orientation is we want the angle towards the head. So this is designed to be towards the front of the motorcycle. So we'll take this and we'll put it on the motor like that. So we should have some fasteners pulled here. We'll get those on, kind of cross from one another. There you go. Nope, put over here. There you go. That'll spread out the weight a little bit. So you don't need all four. I mean, if you want to, no big deal. But we'll get those good and finger tight. All right, so we'll take our stand and we'll bring her right to the frame here. And we're gonna set this little jam nut so it's pretty tall. Because if we're gonna try to paint this bugger black, we've got to get as much access as we can to the bottom side. So I'll start that. Kendall, if you give it a couple good. Yeah, make sure it's good and tight. We don't got to take our day out on it, but we got to. That's good. Very good. All right, so now grab the motor, and then we'll flip it back up on the stand. There you go. All right, so now we're good and tall, plenty tall for it's. I've actually got this set significantly taller than I normally would, just because we want to try to paint this guy. We want it black. So when you get these motors, the head and the jug come with a peened surface or a shot blast surface, just so it can dissipate heat the best it absolutely can. If we're gonna black out this guy, so we're gonna get our high temp or transfer paint. So we'll paint pretty much this whole thing here, but there are gonna be a couple things that we're gonna wanna tape off. So obviously we've got our wire harness here, so we've got to get that out of the way so we don't get that covered up. And there's some quality check stickers, and before starting engine, check oil level, which is, that's important. And we've got our intake here, so it's got tape on it already, but we're gonna probably want to redo this so that way we don't have any paint on our sealing surface. We've got a spark plug in there. We could probably it's just a one that comes with the motor. I really love to run the NGK spark plugs. So we'll just paint right over that spark plug, and we'll just also make sure that we're gonna put tape on our exhaust outlet and some of our studs. But I think everything else, what we'll do is we'll just pull the decals off. We'll tape off our oil dipstick. We'll tape off our kickstart lever. I think I already talked about the wires. We'll probably take off this sprocket and then tape off our output shaft, and we should be able to wipe everything down really good with lacquer thinner. We'll hit it up with some Scotch-Brite, and it should be able to take paint. So we got most of our stuff prepped and pulled here to paint this engine. We've got our painter's tape. We've got most of our tools. So I think the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get this output sprocket here. We're gonna have to make sure we remember to paint our cover. There's a bunch of little decals and stuff we need to start picking off and taping up so we can get rid of this rubber band here for shipping. So this guy, I think we can kind of hold as we spray. So we'll probably put painter's tape up here all the way up. And then this guy, we can unbolt our electric start. Yep, so that's a Phillips head. And then we've got all these little decals. So I think we'll start. Kendall, why don't you grab that Phillips head, and we'll take out the power cord here for our electric start. And I will grab a knife, and we'll start pulling off these decals. So let's, start on the paper first. So just get a good handle of the spray. All right, so what we're gonna wanna do when we paint, especially something real detailed like this, is we're gonna wanna get into all the real tight crevices first, and then go from there. All right, so we've got everything painted here with our flat black. It's still setting up, but I think we're gonna call it a wrap for the night. So I think we've got a pretty good start to our first bike build here with Kendall here, making his mini trail as our father and son project. We'll, as this sets and starts to even out with the flat, we'll set the frame on it. I think this will be pretty exciting. So I hope you follow along with us, all the other videos that we got coming, and we watch Kendall learn here how to do some of these bike building stuff, and it'll be a great time. So what do you think of the project so far?
Great. I had a lot of fun painting this.
Yeah, we got everything prepped. We took everything apart that we needed to. The only thing we can't forget, right, is we can't forget our little sprocket output cover. We'll have to make sure we dig that out. There's some other parts and pieces, but with us using that rule of thumb, and we don't want any chrome, we don't want any silver, we're gonna end up doing a lot of painting on this. But just because we're using engine paint here, we can take that same paint and we can apply that, our duplicate that we have, to some of the other finishes. This paint here has a pretty good enamel, so we'll use that more, so everything matches quite a bit. But hey, if you like what you see here, check us out on mytrailbuddy.com.